Hey, friends, and welcome to Heartful Beings, where we bring loving, grounded, and practical perspectives to living a heart-centered life with Janet Uribe and Milena Rodriguez.
This is the place where we will explore all things spiritual with an open heart while keeping our feet on the ground. We share experiences, bring in special guests, and have open-hearted conversations about all things spiritual.
If you are new or open to expansion, spiritual principles, and universal truths, then we may be kindred spirits.
All we ask is that you take what resonates, nourish your soul, and just leave the rest behind.
Hey, friends. Hello, and welcome to Heartful Beings podcast with me. I'm Janet Uribe and the amazing Milena Rodriguez.
Hey, everyone.
All right, friends. This is a big one today. This is most of our conversations that we'll bring to you are typically based off of the very things that we're going through in our own transformation, our own journey. And the ones that we've been going through lately have really involved a lot of what we'd call transformation, but transformation cannot happen unless there is a mini death, an ego death. It's referred to many different ways in this world or in this arena. Some people call it like maybe the other side of the crisis even, right? So I'm going to let Milena start because she shared something like incredible with me that just blew my mind.
Hey, everyone. So yeah, as Janet just kind of introduced to us, part of transformation, part of becoming what we want to become, part of attracting what it is that we want in our lives is this idea of transformation. And we've talked about it before. Transformation can be really ugly, can be really painful, can be so difficult and hard. Sometimes, not all the time. I went through my own transformation last week that I didn't really see coming. In my personal life, we're going through a lot of changes over here. We have a baby on the way. We are in the middle of making a move. Jan and I are launching this business together. I'm seeing more clients. And so everything started to feel just really overwhelming. Like, whoa, I know I wanted all of this. And I know I said I'm cool with it all at the same time, but I got really overwhelmed. And then, I read my cards every day. And lately I've been really back into tarot, which is something I hadn't really dabbled in for a while. And I got the death card, the death card for a lot of people can symbolize something scary, if you're not really familiar with it. But honestly, the death card is like, no, part of me had to die. And what I came out on the other side of it with lots of reflection, lots of naps, lots of conversation with Janet and some other people is just surrendering to the control. And most importantly, the lesson that keeps coming up for me is learning how to ask for help. So the second I surrendered to the overwhelmness feelings, and then I started getting a little more organized of like, this is what I need help in. And I started asking for help. Everything has lined up. I've got painters come into the house. I've got a friend call me out of the blue. She'll help me move. She'll help me pack. She's got extra boxes just sitting in her garage. Fantastic. All these things just started happening. And I was like, I just had to surrender to the process and like accept some of the mess that I'm in right now as part of this transformational process. And so, the death card and like going through these small deaths are vital for transformation. So Janet, I know you've been going through your own similar small death. And I think you even told me yesterday, you're in an identity death of like coming into a new version of yourself. So,
I will share.
Yeah, we're both similar right now.
Yeah, it's really wild, guys, because I think that if you look, and I think this is what's really great about having vulnerable conversations. I think that there's this tendency sometimes for us to get into the mundane and visit the friend or the family member. And how are you doing? Oh, I'm doing great. How are you doing? Oh, I'm doing great. And when like you were having an authentic relationship and your friend Milena asks you, how are you doing? I'm like, well, listen, doll, like shit's been hitting the fan. Like my life is exploding. I've been like blowing up fires and creating drama all around me. And at the same time, there's this whole new version of me that I don't recognize. And I'm really pissed off about it because it's a new.
Yeah.
But I had asked for this a long time ago. Actually, in a previous episode, I had talked to you guys about Milena having done a theta healing for me, and it really catapulted a lot of next steps and mini deaths that would become what this week has been for me. So for those who have known me in longevity, you know that I haven't really had to sleep very much in my life. I can dance circles and create waves around the average human and still have energy to wake up and like do it again the next day. But the last 6 months have been hard and treacherous with trying to do it and trying to survive. But I finally this week can't do it anymore. And so I was crying. I was crying. about it, because what does it look like for your part of you to die? What does it look like for you to suddenly see this new part of you that isn't familiar and cannot do what it used to do for your own benefit? Mind you, sleep is healthy. Sleep brings us many things, but I'm also learning that I'm also at the same time being supported. So sometimes we wake up to these new versions of ourselves that cannot be the way that we once were. It has to change. And it changed because you placed orders. It changed because you asked the universe for things. And I would love to ask Melina to please share something really precious that she shared with me just before we got on that kind of struck up this conversation about what it looks like when you're going through the transformation, and how there has to be a piece of acknowledgement. Acknowledgement has to be a key piece and factor. So please share with us, friend.
Are you talking specifically about the inventory of like, yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
So, um, one of the things like, okay, so like last week was definitely the death part and going through that transformation. Then I'm going into the light at the end of the tunnel, right? Where I'm starting to be like, okay, I understand the surrender, the asking for help. The last piece I believe is like so critical, but we totally forget because we'll quickly then jump into, well, I want this next and I want this next, right? Which is okay. There's no judgment on that. But let's take a moment to pause, look back, and give ourselves some cred on like how we got there and how far we've come. So we're recording this episode right now during this eclipse season that's happening in May. Okay. And I've been getting this messaging in my emails, in my social media feed, talking to different people about the importance of looking back in the last 6 months to see like, where have you, like, what were you asking for 6 months ago and how far you have come, because you're probably living it in that moment, right? So as Janet's bringing up, we place our orders, we surrender, we tell the universe, this is what I want. And I start making the steps. Look back and see like what you did to help create that, right? So where I am now to where I was 6 months ago is, we have a baby on the way. We were asking for that like last year. We wanted to make a move. We're ready for like a new change. We're basically packing up our house as we speak. We had some issues with finances. Oh my God, have we been getting so much assistance in ways that I didn't even see possible? I couldn't even imagine, where I'm at. With getting different assistance that just help us get through what we were getting through. So basically the message is this: gratitude and going back and giving yourself the credit to see all the hard work that you put in is so important. It kind of ties up everything with a bow, through a transformation, because the transformations can be very, very difficult, whether you're going through a divorce, separation, you're becoming a new mom. That's a whole nother level of transformation that happens. You're switching jobs, or you need to switch jobs. You're not sure which way to go. All of that, once you've said, all right, universe, I'm ready. Show me the teachers, show me what I need to do, show me what lessons I need to learn to move through it. And then once you achieve it, take the time, guys. I promise you, it's going to make you feel so good too. Like, look what I just did. Look at that shit I just did. Look what I just created in my life. It's amazing. And it just gives me this like warmer, fuzzy feeling, that pain I went through, that exhaustion I went through is for something. It wasn't for nothing. So Janet,
Absolutely.
what do you feel about that?
Oh
Like,
my gosh, girl. I think that's the thing. I mean, even if you looked at this universally, like the principles that exist universally are all around you, the snake sheds its skin, friends. To be quite honest, I don't necessarily know what kind of pain that is to shed the snake skin's body that way and then leave the whole shedded skin behind. But the snake is getting bigger. The snake is expanding. And that's really like the biggest thing that I think that we're trying to share with you, is that when expansion happens, when growth happens, you have to leave behind certain pieces of the old. Also, in addition to that, there really is a concept that's being built here and showing you what it means to do that on repeat as you're like doing the conscious life of constant expansion, constant growth. It doesn't go away once you're awakened to it, and you are given everything you need to do so. If you even looked at your physical body that way, cellular regeneration, you're healing at all times. If a piece of hair falls out, another one comes in. The idea is that we've kind of grown accustomed, and I know that I've been guilty of this multiple times. I've grown accustomed to associating growth and transformation with so much pain that sometimes I get a little scared to do more of it. But then the second that I do, I'm like floored at what I see.
Yeah.
And I'm just, holy cow, I did that. Even I was sitting down with my accountant a few weeks ago. She's like, did you know you made this much money last year? And I said, what? I started crying. She told me in the grocery store. I said, what? I'm sorry, what? And I said, I can't believe it. I'm finally starting to see the efforts of my energy and my growth. But yes, the thing is that the ego or the brain will also get in the way, right? Sometimes, and it'll kind of try to have this function. And Milena and I, neither one of us believe in like the devil of what societal scripture or maybe like literature have kind of depicted it to be. I would like Milena has a really cool depiction of what the devil is.
Yes.
Yeah. If you can share, doll.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I'd almost forgotten about that. But again, going back to tarot, because as we're preparing to record this episode, they kept showing me the devil card. And I'm like, man, if we're already going to the death card, do I really need to bring up the devil too? But then it's like, yeah, we're just bringing it all out there. The devil card is a depiction of these two humans who are in chains, but the chains are unlocked around their necks. So it's like, where in your life are you putting yourself in these chains? The devil is a lot of times so associated with the ego, right? It keeps us safe. The ego is, developed over years through experience, through traumas, through just living life, and it gets these belief systems to start being recorded in our bodies. But then those belief systems, some of them just don't serve us anymore. And so then the devil card is kind of like this push and pull where sometimes we're scared to make the leap of faith. We're scared to quit the job. We're scared to leave the marriage because even though it's chaotic and no longer beneficial or the relationships run its course, it still feels safer to stick around with the devil, right? The devil can also symbolize addictions or temptations for people too. So there is that aspect of it as well. But on a practical, like every day, it doesn't always have to go that far out. Sometimes it's just in the choices. Like we have choices of how we want to live, what we want to eat, what we want to do every single day. So then how do we take these chains off of us and become more free? Right. So with the death card, a lot of times has us confront our own devil. What is holding us back? So in my example was staying in overwhelmment. I could start chewing out my partner, like we have all these things to do, which I did a little bit and kind of freaked out a little bit. But, after that experience, coming back and realizing, oh, that's some old shit I need to let go. That's some stuff I need to go into. But the expression of the overwhelmment still served purpose. Okay. Because I was also like getting that energy out of myself. So as we're talking about transformation and the deaths that need to occur, it's also acknowledging the devil. What parts of us is ready to go? What are we holding onto, clinging onto? And we're not sure why, because it's safe, because it's comfortable, because it's what we know. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like we want these transformations to happen, but then a lot of us don't want to necessarily sometimes do the work because it can be painful. So Jana, like you just so beautifully said, sometimes we've gone through so many transformations. We're like, oh God, not again, not this week. I don't have time for it. But as we get more used to doing it, there is a little bit more of an ease. It happens a little quicker. I'm like, oh, that's what's happening this week. I'm going to go ahead and clear my schedule because I'm going to need some time to like sort through. Right.
Yeah.
If you can, Yeah.
And to someone who's like newer to this concept, I want to put your heart and mind at ease. When Milena and I were starting to learn what these transformations were without having complete understanding and concept of what they can be like, it can feel very erratic. It can feel like a goddamn roller coaster ride. It can feel like you're losing your bearings. And that being a piece of being human, the more we've been doing this, the more we've been able to more so transition into the position of an observer instead of giving it so much meaning and so much power, just recognizing, oh yeah, this is likely something that I said I wanted to do. This is something that was in my heart's desire. Even the universe is communicating with you at all times, guys. Whether you say it out loud or it's in your heart, it knows. And so wherever that predominant thought is going is what you're going to be creating pretty instantaneously, the better you get at this. And so like even this last week, as I've been going through the transformation, I just went and did a life transformation with my mentor and came back to a totally new version of myself that is unfamiliar. Even healing can be traumatic to the brain, but being able to transition and regulate and witness, okay, I can see what I'm doing. I can see that I'm creating fires with my partner, which is what I was doing. I can see that I'm kind of instigating. I'm learning to find, discover, and use my safe places to basically project so that I can get some information back for myself to understand, okay, what is it that's needed to be grounded? What is it that needs to be changed? And what is it that I also need to do to walk this new practice? Spirituality really is more like a practice because you can heal and forgive everybody and yourself along the way. But if you yourself don't show up to walk the practice that comes with the transformation, then you can easily fall right back to where you were.
Yeah. And yeah, that's beautifully said, because there's no judgment. If you do fall back, you just start becoming that observer, as Janet's saying, to like take a step back, get back. What is this showing me? What is in it for me? You know, what is the universe or this or whatever situation you're going through trying to show you? I had a client this week. I did a session where, you know, her and her partner, she wants some things to change in the relationship. Okay. She wants to clean up, and for lack of a better word, like when that partner comes home and the type of energy or hanging out or intimacy that they experience. Okay. Instead of the exhausted version of them, of the tired, I don't have time, I just want to go to bed. We all get stuck in that. Okay. So she wants to work on that. And the universe is giving her now the stuff that he needs to work on and that she would need to work on. So I'm bringing up this example as sometimes we have an attachment of what we think that change is going to look like, feel like, be like. And then those moments of tantrums or those moments of arguments are actually the universe giving you the answer, but we'll get stuck in our wounding. We'll get stuck in like victimization and point the finger, which we've talked about. And so bringing this idea that Janet brought in of like being the observer, of standing back and saying, you know, what is this going on? Why am I tantruming? Why am I being triggered? You know, because that is part of the transformational process, the gathering of the information, right?
Yeah.
What's the devil inside of me that needs to change? And I don't want to say that like if you're in an abusive relationship, you know, sometimes those things is you gaining your inner power and saying enough is enough and setting a firm boundary or leaving that situation. It could be that type of work too. It's not necessarily that you did anything to create that or to bring that upon yourself, but because it is happening, there is still a message in there of like, what is it that I need and want? You know, safety, then out, you know, and find support. And then sometimes it's smaller, you know, situations. So there's like such a variety and degree that
man,
it happens.
it's so true. It's not even the variety, the degree, the measurement, the perspective, the integrity. I mean, so much will show on this walk. So much will show if you're connecting your dots. So in full transparency, I was setting fires last week to various areas of my life, specifically in my relationship, which I cherish so much. So it was really interesting that I found myself nitpicking away at my partner of just the most ridiculous concepts, really, of and ideas of what I want and what I thought my relationship would be versus where it is at this moment and how it's not moving at the pace that I like to move, which is like full speed.
Yeah, of course.
Right. So even in that dynamic, I'm being taught it is time to slow down. It is time to surrender. It is time to not criticize another. By the way, you can't even criticize another human being if you're not that self-critical of yourself.
Yes, that's a big
So,
one.
yeah, huge. So the amount of information that came in as I've been doing my own work, I just went and did a life transformation with my mentor, Tammy. And so when I come back and I realize and I do instigate, it was perfect. It was profound because in that instigation, I had all of this information come to me and realize, holy cow, the way I just behaved does not actually resonate with me anymore. So just even that act of giving myself grace of, you know what, Janet, you did misbehave or you did act out or you weren't considerate in that moment. It made me realize that doesn't resonate with me anymore. And I started my own self-forgiveness process, as well as asking forgiveness and changing the behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Like for me, I know I've said this 100 times to many of my other audience members and to Melena, like the real apology, the real one is the change in behavior. So taking ownership, acknowledging that it is my piece to do. And then when you start to walk it naturally, that is the transformational process as well. It's that practice. It's a
Oh my God.
practice.
100%. And then when you start practicing it and walking it, the gratitude, it gives it like
Mhm.
this like burst of energy, and it almost like plants the seed further down in the soil, like it gives it this boost of, I went through the death, I'm going through the transformation, I see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm grateful. I'm actually grateful for who I'm becoming, what I'm becoming, because I'm also working with this other mentee. I do mentoring as well. And their energy has completely changed from the first session to this one. And the gratitude has been a really big part of that practice, that just in this last week when I met with her, of like, it's okay. I have shitty days and I have really great days, and I'm just going to be grateful for all of it. And it's like her paradigm has already changed.
Yeah.
She's attracting new people in her life. She's attracting old friends that weren't around before, that are now just being attracted without her even have to pick up the phone. They're calling her, that it's like the transformation, the evidence that you'll start seeing in your life from doing this work and just doing any kind of therapy and soul searching and like just having enough.
Yeah.
A lot of us
Uh-huh.
right now, we've had enough. Like, I'm
Absolutely.
tired. And then there's this, when you have that like internal drive that there's nothing else that you want to be doing but that change, just say yes to it.
Just
Just
say
watch
yes.
out. Just watch out what comes.
Yes. And then thank you. I mean, even the other day, guys, like, launching a podcast, we're learning, has a lot of pieces to it. Okay. And I was asking my partner for assistance in something, and he has incredible, fast spatial awareness, fast, processing skills. And I'm much slower in that world. My brain moves that fast, but not my eyes. And so he was losing his patience with me. And then rather than saying anything on the spot, I immediately listened and said, okay, hold on. He's losing his patience with me. Oh, whoa, 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 wait. This is how I speak to myself.
Mm.
Right. So now I immediately got into gratitude and said, thank you for showing me that. Thank you.
And like, that's some higher level awareness, guys. All right. Jan and I have done a lot of work to get to this point, and we're not stopping, because we still have the fights and the
Oh, yeah.
bickering. But what we're saying is like, it is possible to make change within the self, and it's always the self first before the evidence in the environment changes along with you too, you
Yeah.
know.
And it's
Um,
really a mirroring concept, really. So
mhm.
maybe we need to do the next episode on mirroring.
Yeah.
Um, but just to give you more understanding of that, because I don't want you to think that if you happen to be in this really like maybe perhaps toxic situation, that that's really a place that you should sit in and get into gratitude with, because there's also boundaries, and there's a huge dichotomy that exists in all of this spirituality scene as well, right? And
Mhm.
I mean, you want to be one, but everything's one, but put up boundaries. So there's a lot of things that can contradict themselves, but it's constantly studying and learning what your balance is and what resonates for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And going back, if you are in a toxic relationship, um, I feel as though the first step would be like getting into a safe place,
Yeah.
because it's really hard to do any therapy, or to start doing the interchange when you just don't feel safe. And that could
Yeah.
be your safe place too, getting the support, getting the help, getting the tools to get out of a situation that is very, very, very toxic and dangerous. But it's not impossible. So if you're out there and you're struggling, reach out for support.
Yeah. Plenty of tools,
Yeah.
friends. You just
Yeah.
have to choose yourself and know that you're worth it. You're
You're
important enough.
worthy. Oh my goodness. I've been
Mhm.
doing so much work with clients on them even feeling that they're worthy of something different, that they're worthy of, like, we might have a whole episode on worthiness, because
Oh, sure.
those downloads and that starts very, very young too. Are we worthy of a good relationship? Are we worthy of more? Are we worthy of putting ourselves first without guilt, shame, blame, um, but that's stuff to also work for in those transformations.
Yeah.
Those are the three sneaky ones I think that always kind of pop up, right? Self-worth, guilt, and shame.
Yeah. And, and then what do you get out of even removing these pieces from your life? Right. So I think that's another thing that comes with transformation is because we've become so accustomed to what is in the current status quo or in the current knowing, and there's safety and predictability in that even. The brain finds safety in what is known and what is current. The second that we start to really recognize that something could change, that might feel a little scary. And so seeking something like your self-worth and your value and dropping off the shame and the guilt, that would be unfamiliar territory. So what does it look like to do it in those baby steps too, that can actually help scaffold you to a healthier place for your sound and whole body and mind too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as we wrap it up, guys, the death card and the devil card, they're not that scary, but do we have the courage to start to figure that out for ourselves? Do we have the courage to go through these mini deaths? Because anyone, we're not the same version we were in middle school, high school, early adult, it happens naturally, right? But what the devil card was really showing me today is that we also have choice. We don't have to wait till big moments in time. We have choice every day to change the things we no longer want or we don't like. We have the choice to I want to change my whole life. All right. Tell me what I need to do. Bring it on. Let's go, So embracing these two cards has really helped me. So I hope it helps you guys.
Really well put, my friend. All right, guys, we're going to let you go. Have a beautiful day.
Bye, guys. If you liked what you heard today and want to see more about our offerings and gifts, please join our email list at heartfulbeings.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Heartful Beings.
Please note that all of our perspectives and views of the following content are ours and aren't necessarily a substitute to our holistic views and approaches to healing. Both of us believe in the numerous support tools available to all, which include and are not limited to therapy, mental health treatment, medical prescription, and other types of traditional or alternative healthcare.